Is that going to make you feel
Tell
better?
me when I'm recording, asshole. Welcome to the Union Fitness Podcast with your co-hosts, Todd Hammer and
the Charles Mustache Jasper.
Charles Edward Jasper, with our all things producer, production assistant, producer, and director, and executive assistant
To the manager.
to the manager, Josh Elsass. I thought he was going to say his name, but obviously not. Today, we're going to call this the All RMU Robert Morris University Romo Bobby Moe episode. We have an alum producing. We have a dude who worked there for over a decade, a dude who worked there twice, and
That makes you sound great.
Right, yeah.
and if you Google Robert Morris University, any university will say notable alums.
Oh, yeah.
And
The
fun
notable
fact,
alum.
The number one most notable alum in the history of Robert Morris is on the podcast, Charles. The
Holy
one,
smokes.
the only, Bree McLaughlin / Biddle. Do you go with the slash? Hyphen?
I just ripped off the Band-Aid. Straight Biddle.
Oh, really?
Ripped it off.
Biddle. I'm sorry.
But she
Yeah.
likes it.
Bree Biddle. BB
I
on
tried
the line.
to get him to be Logan McLaughlin, but it didn't happen.
Sounds like a cool country singer.
I'll change my name to Todd McLaughlin.
Yeah.
I'll go Todd McLaughlin. Well, welcome to the show, Bree. What's up, man?
What is up?
Hi, good to see you guys.
It's been a long time, my friend. How are you doing out in Minnesota?
And a real long time. It's actually beautiful this time of year in Blaine, Minnesota.
Blaine, Minnesota.
This is our home base of the national team.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where my first Olympics in 10. This is where we centralized. And I haven't been here in years, so it's nice to be back.
Did you post load? Inside joke, sorry.
What does that
everyone.
mean?
Hockey terminology. We know about this hockey people.
Yeah, Hammer's actually a goalie guy, if you guys didn't know. He knows everything.
He is a goalie guy.
I know one thing about being a
Week
goalie.
5 hole.
And I'll never forget this quick story. You were in Sochi, and I'm watching the game, and Bree gets in the game, and China, I believe, gets like a rush on her. And she had like a stop, and I was like, yeah, Bree. And then a stop with a rebound, they score. And so I text her during the game, and I was like, that was my fault. I'm sorry if we have trained harder. My bad. Game ends, first commercial's on, and I get a text, and she's like, yeah, it happens, whatever. And I'm like, bro, you just came off the ice. She's like, yeah, I'm in my locker texting
It
you.
was quick.
I was like, that is awesome. But if she would have post-loaded in that moment, it would have saved the game.
Mm-hmm. Did they win?
Yeah, it was like 13-1, I think.
Yeah. I didn't know China held a very strong hockey team.
The role in women's hockey, Bree, who are the competitive teams in women's international hockey?
It's U.S., Canada, Finland are the main three.
Yeah, so pretty much the games usually are pretty heavily sided to the American side. Is that fair? Until we have to play one
We'll go
of those.
with that.
Yeah, until we play one of those top teams. So what are you doing in Minnesota?
This is our Olympic tryouts. So we will be naming probably about 28 to this roster that will be centralized, meaning we'll move out here in the fall, live here permanently and train and travel all over the world. And then we'll knock maybe like 5 more off of that roster, and that will be the team that will go to China.
And what is your official
China.
What is your official title there?
I am the goalie coach.
The goalie coach.
Yeah, like the Ohio State, the Robert Morris.
Yes, I just
The
think,
goalie coach.
yes. Sorry, Josh just changed my screen. I saw a picture of him and it freaked me out because it went from Bree to Josh, and I don't like that. But congrats on being a coach with the Olympic team. I think that's awesome, and to be as celebrated at your alma mater as you are, is an awesome thing. So, how did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, look at you going full circle.
Actually, she's like on the other. She's on the other end of the circle. She's nowhere near the circle anymore.
She was there. She went all the way around.
All right, how did you end up where you are today?
I started out at Robert Morris. End of my junior year, I got called up to the U22 team. which is now we have the U18s, U22s, and then the senior national team. So I did that, played in one game, got absolutely destroyed.
Nice.
Never heard from the national team again. And then Olympic tryouts came around after my senior year. Hammer, I don't know if you remember, but I was like done with hockey. Like
You were gonna be a nurse.
Yes, I was in nursing school, finishing that up.
That's a tough
And
hockey
and they
nursing.
called and like, yeah, we need another goalie for tryouts. So Hammer was got me all back in shape, getting on the ice, getting in the weight room, and I went to tryouts and actually did really, really well. Made the team. Long story short, I was on the national team till 2015. I was able to go to 2 Olympics, and then I started my own like training company in Pittsburgh at the Island Sports Center. So I just finished up with that, actually done with that. And I got invited back to the national team as a coach about 2 years ago.
So I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but
Foreshadow.
is it possible that Bree left training players on the island and Robert Moore said, we have no other reason to have hockey anymore?
You were the one.
That was it. It was the final straw.
You were the
They're
duck
like,
tape.
well, Bree's gone.
For all this,
What do
it's
we
actually my fault.
what do we do now?
Yeah, way to make her feel good, huh?
Yeah, it's all your fault. Way to go. Good job. I listen. I remember when you had your tryouts, and I remember you had a great line. Where how many saves did you have in college? Do you remember the number? It's like 80 billion or something.
It was somewhere around there, yeah.
Yeah, and
80 billion.
Give or take.
and you know, you said people keep asking me like, how do I get so many saves? And you said, well, I credit my defense because they don't do anything. And in jest, you said it because I know they were friends of yours. But I always appreciated when you said that because I was like, well, if they didn't get all the shots, you couldn't have all the saves, Bree. So
Yeah, I think that was self-proclaimed by them, actually, of actively getting out of play.
I knew some of your
Is what they
teammates.
said.
You're probably not wrong there. So I think,
Yeah.
we'd be remiss. I think we have to delve into this. Major decisions, major shakeups out of
Talk about the
Robert Morris.
oh man, I'm out.
The cannoli?
Colonial in the room.
Colonial. I was like, oh, we
Say elephant in the room.
The elephant in the room. Robert Morris University blindsidedly dropping hockey, not really communicating it. And you were there. You remember when they dropped sports, as I do. Eight or 10 years ago, and it wasn't pleasant, but I felt it was done as best it could be done.
Yeah.
And I think it was handled very differently this time. So what are your thoughts?
Well, I don't know where to start with this, but
It's a
we
big
kind
question.
of
I'm
tried-
sorry.
yeah, there's so many angles, but the media tried to ask, like, when was this a thing? Because it seemed very last minute, being that they were looking at different possibilities for rink upgrades. They've been talking to the Penguins about maybe moving up that way, UPMC, like so many balls up in the air about how to advance the programs that are so successful that they are growing out of their current situation. And then all of a sudden it was like, I think Derek found out an hour before.
Mm-hmm.
And they hopped on a Zoom call, spent 10 minutes with the kids. Hey, you're done. And then just like hopped right off. So the girls just won a championship. So they were all excited. They were partying, thinking that they were going to be shown their championship rings.
Oh man.
Oh,
And they hop on and they're like, no, actually, you're never going to play hockey ever again
What
in
a
your life.
gut punch.
So that was a little bit
man.
of a blindsided. So I was bummed that that's how it was done because I don't know how much of a viewers and listeners are hockey people, but this is very late in the game for transfers, and the transfer portal is like overflowing.
Pretty full.
So there's a good possibility that, like, I don't think any of the men's players have found a place to go. There's only a couple of women's players that found a place to go. So they're all just stuck where they're at.
So, I mean, obviously, I've been at 2 schools while they dropped sports. I was at Robert Morris when they did it. I was at George Washington while they did it. And in both cases, they did, a year-long study into the program. And everyone knew it was one of those things that everyone knew it was coming because once they start telling you to justify your job,
Yeah.
there's going to be some changes. And I think that's what makes this one even worse. And, like, I actually have said, I think Robert Morris made a mistake when they dropped sports years ago. when they dropped field hockey and tennis and golf and whatever they dropped, you know, there are very few schools that compete at lacrosse, football, basketball, and hockey at a decent level. And most of those are your Michigans and Ohio States of the world. So I've always said that they needed to review their sports, and hockey, lacrosse, football have to have conversations and decide who's going to be there. Because financially, they're all relatively expensive sports with larger rosters, and someone probably is not going to be there at the end of the day. So I think 8, whatever, I think it was about 8 years ago, they had an opportunity to make hard decisions that would have hurt people's feelings and would have sucked. And they didn't do it the right way. And I have friends who were involved in the decision, but I think, dropping tennis didn't save them much money. It didn't really make a difference to the department. And that led them to this position today where then it's like, hey, we're dropping hockey. And I just think it was just the handling of it was not the best, and they could have done a lot better job with it. And for when you, like I said, when you Google Robert Morris University, there's a thing that says notable alums, and you are the first name that comes up. Like, so you would think that your name carries some weight there. So where do we go from here? Do you think they have a chance of? I mean, I've read the paper and read all the sports writers. The Penguins want to step up.
Yep.
Yeah, the Penguins want to step up, and other people want to step up. One, if someone cares, how do they help? Two, do you think there's a chance?
I think from the answers that we got, the problems that he laid out, which led to the decision, it seems like we have an answer for already. Mm-hmm. It was, we need upgrades to the rink. And there's been people to step up and say, I will buy the rink. I will do the necessary upgrades. We'll run it in a way that money gets dumped back to the teams to make sure that they're funded properly. We've had somebody offer to start a company and raise the funds, and also not only to bring us back, but then also to sustain for the future. And we've had some people hop in on just straight up funding. So with that being said, it seems like all those bases are covered. Whether they're options that he wants, I'm not sure. All of these people have reached out to him to speak, and I don't know if they've gotten a meeting yet. We've been kind of going back and forth, and the gentleman that offered to buy the rink has been in contact with Logan and Kurt Wright. Do you remember he was the first captain of the men's team? So we've got a bunch of different people in here and trying to reach out, and it seems like we're going in a good direction. I think it just comes down to, do they really want hockey or do they not?
It's a shame
because it didn't really seem like funding was actually an issue. Like, it's expensive. Everybody knows hockey's expensive, but they didn't really flat out say that. And I think if they did, we all would have understood. If it was, hey, hockey's super expensive, we can't sustain it anymore, we appreciate everything you guys have done, but and giving everybody a good advance heads up,
and I
nobody would have made it. They would have just been sad that it was done. But the sketchiness of this whole thing from top to bottom is what has everybody all fired up to get the teams back.
And I think the perception of due diligence, like you said, if it said, hey, for the last year we've reviewed this, and here's the X's and O's of it, and hockey's not sustainable at this rate, that would be one thing. But I think a lot of people feel as though it was a decision that was made kind of at midnight and came out the next day. And then I Googled Pittsburgh hockey or something, and it said Robert Morris cuts hockey, and I was like, no, that's a typo.
Yeah.
I honestly assumed that, and I think the thing that was missing is it had such a cult following. The fans were diehard fans. People who like hockey love hockey. They breathe hockey, and I don't know if that was considered when this decision was made. So I think that's the really sad part about it. How can Union Fitness help? What can we do to make hockey better? And how can we help Robert Morris and you? That's a tough question.
Great question, Hammer. I think there's a whole side of it that goes above my head on how to push forward, but just as an alumni that cares, and we've put together some fundraising things There is a GoFundMe online for people who just want to dump a little something in there.
Josh
and
can
then
probably
we
link
also
that.
have
Sorry, Josh will link that.
get that up
He'll
there.
find it.
And then we're also taking pledges. So we're not sure like how far we can go with this. So right now it's just, hey, email me what you want to pledge, and we've got a pledge sheet going. If it gets to the point where we feel like we can actually get a meeting and improve our funds, then an official sheet will go out and make it a little bit more legal. But as of right now, I mean, in 5 days, he said we've exhausted all of our efforts to raise money, and I don't know if it's the hype of, oh my gosh, it's done and people want to jump in, but like we have a possible like $1 million already in like 5 days, and like so it's like, well,
Well,
give us a little
if,
time.
if any of the kids are in still Pittsburgh, they can certainly come down here to train and have a spot. We'll
That's
take care of them.
NCAA violation.
Why?
Free training.
We'll charge $1 to train here.
$1. Tell anyone wants to come down. $1 we'll train them.
$1 we'll train you.
None of that Canadian money. We don't want
Is
that
it
crap.
NC violation? We're not in the NCAA.
Well, you know what? We don't work for the NCAA. Tell anyone who wants to come down. They're Robert Morris. They're free. They're on us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is official on the internet, so the whole world knows about it.
Do you think after them pulling the carpet out from under them, do you think they even want to come back? Like, what would you want to come back to a place that seemingly doesn't want you, or would you come back just to spite the big dogs up top?
That's a good point. I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think that all the players are they're really, really hurt. And I think it's that respect factor of like, we've given you everything. I think when people think of Robert Morris, they think of hockey, and maybe that's me being biased and in the hockey world, but I think both of the hockey teams and their success has done a lot for the school. So they're all feeling a little bit hurt by the respect part of it. But at the end of the day, a lot of them don't have another place to play. So, and they're just dying to put that jersey back on.
So let's get back to Bree's career, because it is honestly one of the most like heroic Pittsburgh like driven stories that we have as far as local sports goes. So you said that you were ready to quit hockey after a dominant senior year where you set the all-time saves record in NCAA history, and you're gonna quit? What like how did that change? What did you go through? Tell us about that.
Well, that wasn't like a choice. That's just kind of the road of women's hockey. There wasn't pro hockey afterwards. So I'd finished my senior year, and USA Hockey I was not of interest at that time. So I was just done with my career. That was it. I was moving on.
Josh, we call that prom night for you, when no one wanted to join you.
It is true. I went to prom alone. But then,
Now I just feel bad.
You get to go to USA Hockey, and then you're part of the Buffalo Buttes. Like you were at the big birth of a league, and you're the starting goalie. Like your career has been so amazing. Like what kept you going at all those turns where you thought, oh, maybe I'm done, maybe I'm done, maybe I'm done, and then you just kept finding the next thing?
I think that's just being a competitive athlete. Like when I was done with the national team, I didn't feel like I was done. That was that was their decision, not mine. And I felt like I was still trending upwards and I could still get better. And right after, I think it was like that following fall was when they announced that the NWHL was going to be around. So it's always been a passion of mine to grow the sport. And I felt like being a part of the first professional league in the U.S. was important. And the closest team was 3.5 hours away in Buffalo, which was doable. It wasn't 5. So I was practicing during the week and then driving up on a Friday, sleeping on someone's couch, playing a game on Saturday, and then driving back. It was a lot, but I loved it. I loved the team. It reminded me of my team at Robert Morris, which was my favorite team of any team I've ever played on. Doesn't matter, Olympic team, world championship teams. That Robert Morris crew was my favorite. So back in Buffalo, it was like reliving life. We were the worst team in the league. I got a lot of shots. I got made fun of a lot. and I just got to play hockey and like be a starting goalie again, so I felt like I just loved the game again. And then we made it all the way to the championship. They made some BS call in overtime, and they got whatever, a breakaway, a shootout, whatever. I'm blanking. I love hockey.
Penalty shot.
Yes, yes.
Whatever.
I don't sleep a lot. I have 2 kids. They get a penalty shot, and it was Hillary Knight, and she always shoots high gloves. So I guessed, and I went high, and she went low, and we lost. So coming that close to a championship and not winning, I had promised my husband that I was done with hockey after that year, and then we almost won. So I was like,
Can't be done yet.
Yeah, wow.
We're gonna do it.
He'll
So
do it.
I went back one more year. We ended up with the same team in the championship, but this time we won, and I felt like that was a good ending of my life in hockey.
I think three points right here. One, your husband will do what he's told.
Yeah.
I know Logan. He'll do what you tell him. 2, I think you said something really, really amazing right there. And you said, my Robert Morris team was the most fun team. I loved that team. I had fun there. What was your career record at Robert Morris? You don't have to tell me. It wasn't great. You were on
Not
a
good.
startup program, and your best season was 10 wins or whatever, right? So the beauty of, and I think one of the cool parts of sport is you can say, I love that team. I had so much fun. We were terrible. You can enjoy the lessons of sport without it. But the last thing, and I'm going to get your thoughts on this, and I don't remember if you remember this conversation we had, and you were like, you said something like, I'm probably not going to make the team. And I said, if it comes down to you and one other person, you'll make the team. And I said, because of your personality. If it's that close, you'll get it. And I think something in sport that a lot of people forget, and I think young athletes need to hear this, be a good person, be likable, get along with people, have fun, and it gives you an edge because people want to be around you. And I think that definitely aided you in your career because people are like, oh, well, if I have to travel on the road with someone.
She's cool.
Yeah, like I'd rather talk to CJ than Josh over here. I'm kidding, Josh. I'm
Smells
teasing
like
you.
cheese.
No, but if you have two choices and they're equal, but one person you want to hang out with and the other person you don't, I'm going to pick the person I want to hang out with every day of the week. And I think that's a compliment to you as a person, and I don't think a lot of young athletes always appreciate that.
Well, thanks, Ham.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I like that.
That was a very touching moment. And I still picked on Josh.
No, I think it's important in that position I was in too as a third goalie because you're not looking at your third goalie to be a starting goalie. Like it's so easy to have that third goalie just be a turd. Like, why am I not playing? And blah, blah. Well, because you're a third string goalie. Like you're here to be first one on the ice, last one off, making your teams better, good teammate, working your butt off. Like those are all the things that is the characteristic of somebody in that role. So that could be maybe a fourth liner or whatever. Like those people need to be, I don't want to say like cheerleader of the team, but you need to work your butt off and you need to be a good teammate and you need to make sure all your ducks are in a row. And that, like you said, that kind of keeps you around maybe a little bit longer or gets you on a team that maybe somebody who's more skilled.
And I think it's like
you're looking for those role people.
Yeah, it's like a backup quarterback in the NFL. Like when people like the backup quarterback.
Charlie Batch.
Yeah, people like Charlie Batch. Charlie Batch. Robert Morris alum.
Oh.
Not the most famous Robert Morris alum.
Second.
I didn't know that.
No, he did like a master's program.
Oh, okay,
it wasn't.
okay,
He didn't.
okay.
I don't think
he went to. I think.
Yeah,
Eastern
I was
Michigan.
like, it seems wild that he got
did
from Robert Morris to the league. Like, I'm pretty sure I know all the guys that did that.
He did a master's like years later. But I just think the lesson in that is when you're the backup quarterback, when you're that next person to go in the game, you better be the ultimate teammate. You better support your teammates. You better not pout about not being in the game. And young athletes need to hear that because being a good teammate can help elevate the team, can help make the team more fun. And win or lose, you're going to say, I love that team. And so I think that ties a full circle to what you said about the team. Like, I love the team, and I loved my time at Robert Morris. And as we hopefully, changes can be made at Robert Morris so that they can save the team and bring it back and hopefully make that change.
Or we start a Union Fitness
hockey team.
University hockey team.
We have this grass out front. I want to make an ice rink.
Mm-hmm.
You come manage. You want to manage it for us?
Winter Classic all year round.
Yes.
We'll figure
we
it
have
out.
this large grass area. I actually met with my boss and said, "Can we put ice out there?" And he said, "I love that idea." So I'm just
Sure
saying,
did.
if we get some medals hanging around this
Yeah.
thing, shining up some.
Colors are black and gold. We'll be a Pittsburgh team. I think we have something going on here.
I like how your accent got real thick. Are you yins guys be down here
I
drinking
can't
beer?
talk to my people without it.
Jesus, isn't this?
You make it orange and brown on there.
She's a Cleveland
Ooh.
person. Did you know this?
I push those things out of my mind.
I remember I drove to a fundraiser, Bree McLaughlin fundraiser, after she graduated, and not Cleveland, it's the other side of Cleveland. I learned that when I MapQuested it. 'Cause
Lakewood.
Back in the days when I'd print out the directions and everything. And there
Tell
was
me you're 40 without telling me you're 40, huh?
there was an event, a fundraiser for Bree on the other side of Cleveland, and I remember I drove there. It was a great time. I had to drive back to Pittsburgh, so I think I had one beer. And I drove back, and I don't know if you noticed, it like blizzarded the entire way back. It was the worst drive. It took like 6 hours. I got back at 4 in the morning, had to be at work 6. But I was still thankful for the invite, and so thank you, Bree, for having me out there. So,
Thanks for coming.
well, what thoughts, final thoughts, big, not just about RMU hockey, but also just I think for the athletes who are going to hear this, the young athlete, the ones from Robert Morris who are struggling. What other thoughts do you have for us?
Who knows?
Figure it out as
been
you
in
go.
contact with- yeah. I've been in contact with some of the girls. Michaela Boyle is on the team. I've known her since she had baby teeth.
Little Nina.
Yeah. And it's just so unfortunate. She was at Clarkson and she had a horrible time. And she talks a lot about, she had a rough time leaving because she felt like she was bailing on her team. But really it was, she needed to be happy and she needed to find a different avenue and love the sport and feel good about herself. And she found that home at Robert Morris. And then this happened. So I guess a good analogy is whenever I came to camps like this and I sucked or I got cut from a team or whatever, like it's horrible. You go home, you don't feel good about it. But that next camp, that next adventure that I had was better. Like I don't know what it is for them, like what's next, but for me, it took a while and maybe it was something immediate and maybe it was something that looking back on now I can see it, but it made my life better or I trained harder. So again, I don't know what those lessons are going to be for those kids and I hope they find one and I hope they find a new path, whether it's hockey or, whatever major they're going into, but going through rough things aren't necessarily always the bad thing. It hurts at first, but you move forward. You learn things about yourself.
And growth occurs
Find good in it.
Stress.
Mhm.
Stress creates growth. So hopefully, whether they are able to raise the funds and convince the right people and bring hockey back, hopefully all of these athletes are stronger for it. And CJ had asked, would the athletes still want to play there? And I've heard the comparison of UA, or was it UAB that dropped football?
Yeah.
But I think the bigger comparison here is Quinnipiac when they dropped volleyball. And the volleyball team raised heck, and they ended up bringing volleyball back. And I think looking at what other programs drop sports and how did they bring it back, and how did the athletes and the coaches involved actually reintegrate themselves to that campus community, because I've talked to a lot of people, friends who previously worked at Robert Morris, who do work at Robert Morris now, and most people are not happy with this decision, and I think they want to see him back, and I think if they were able to get the team back, I think it would be important that the students understand, the coaches understand that most people are with them.
Oh, yeah.
Most support them.
Yeah, 100%. I've heard nothing of anybody being like in agreement to what is happening. So I think that's what pushes the kids, that all these little girls that wanted to be a Colonial one day. And like, that's what's also unfortunate is not only the athletes themselves, but when I first moved out here and I saw Minnesota hockey, like I came back to Pittsburgh going, I want that here. Like, there's no reason that can't be this. I want USA Hockey to say, we have to go to Pittsburgh to find kids because that's where the good hockey is. And we went to work. You know, like the PAL organization was awesome. They were adding girls programs. We were doing try hockey for free. I started doing my girls camps. Any idea I had, I would go to Marty and, hey, I need like 500 tickets, and his mind would explode, and then he would give me. But he gave me that free range to invite girls to watch this team perform, and everybody loved it. And the city was growing for not only hockey but women's hockey, and that avenue had a lot to do with the programs there. You know, the Penguins do a lot, but they're professional hockey players. Like, they're busy. The college teams are right there at the grassroots level, and they're heroes to all these little kids that want to play Division I hockey. They had that right at their fingertips, and now they don't.
Well, Bree, we appreciate your time. We appreciate you coming on here and talking with us. We're going to make sure we get that the link out for the GoFundMe and get people the information they have to help all of us here, because I think we all agree. You know, we disagree with the decision, and hopefully we can do things to raise some awareness here and make the world a little better place while doing it.
If any of the athletes want to come here to train, you just stop down.
Stop down. We got them for free. Freebies right now.
Yeah, no NCAA violations. Freeze.
Probably NCAA violations.
Nope. But Mama don't know. Nobody watches, so Mama don't know.
The scores of fans we have. Well, thank you, Bree. We loved having you on. I know Josh was excited being a big RMU hockey guy. He was excited to have the most notable alum in the history of school on.
My favorite Robert Morris hockey player of all time, other than Catherine Stack.
I was going to say, I watched your personal podcast a few weeks ago, and I heard you had a favorite women's hockey player during your time there. Wink, wink.
Do you have any more curly questions to ask, Josh?
No, I mean, I just want to back up everything Bree said. I mean, the NWHA All-Star Game sold out the Lemieux Sports Complex for 2 nights in a row. Like, it's a no-brainer. Hockey belongs in Pittsburgh, period.
Mark Madden Jr. has spoken.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well,
I apologize.
Well, fine then.
Well, thanks, Bree. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks, guys.